friends, today I'm going to talk about the top 7 books that I read in the last 7 years. So today it's been exactly 7 years since I started my booktube channel, and it is so wild because in one way 7 years feels like nothing, but in another way it's so huge. And it is so wild to think about how 7 years ago I sat basically almost exactly in this spot and filmed my very first video, and this room looked different, I looked very different, I had not learned as much about life yet, for sure. I was not as happy as I am right now. I had not achieved as many of my dreams as I have now. I am just so baffled looking back and thinking about how much has changed in these 7 years, and how much this channel and so many of you have been along on this journey. How you had seen me in my room in Vienna and all these years in Berlin, and now I'm back here, and even me in the flat that I had for just a couple of months during my first theatre job. Just so many things that this channel was kind of seeing, so many things that were developing during me making these videos, and I'm still here. I am very queer, which definitely wasn't the case when I started this channel, or at least I wasn't aware. And just so many things, so many things. I've come incredibly far. I was in therapy, overcame depression, all these things, and for so many of these things this channel has helped me to stay grounded, to have some sort of routine in the worst weeks of my life when I felt like nothing made sense and I just kind of didn't want to do anything. Sometimes I got up to film a video, or editing would help me in moments when I felt anxious, and that's not even considering all of the friends that I made and all of the other things that this has brought me through the friends that I made. I could go on and on and on and on about how much this channel has done for me and my life and the person that I am. There is an endless list of things, and I'm just incredibly grateful. I'm incredibly thankful for everybody who has supported me for however long, for everybody who's been with me through this big journey of this channel, but also of life. And even in months when I wasn't really uploading and when my interests had shifted very, very much, so many of you still are here and supporting me, and it just means the absolute world to me. And also because I think that it's so important to practice self-love and to tell yourself that you've done a good job. I am incredibly proud of myself for everything that I have achieved in the past 7 years, and this channel is a very, very big part of that. And it's not about the numbers or anything like that. It's just about how much work and time and love and dedication I've put into making videos, into reviewing, and I am just so happy looking back at all those years and how far I've come. And alright, okay, we got sappy for a couple of minutes, but now I want to talk about the top 7 books that I read in those 7 years on booktube. I have some series on this list, but I definitely choose a representative book for every series. If I had just gone, with like each book individually, you probably could have guessed what like my top 6 would have been, and it would have been 2 series, and I didn't really want to do that. So I just decided to, sometimes just include a whole series, but have one book that I love the most from that series representative. I think that a lot of these are no surprises at all, but maybe there's other ones that will be surprises, where maybe you would not have thought these would be as far up in my favorites as, top 7. So we're just gonna get into this list. I will try not to make it too long. We'll see. There's a bias with some of these for sure, just because I've reread them several times, but we'll just just gonna get into it, okay? So my number 7 that I read in the past 7 years is Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. Now, I think that this one definitely could have been further up the list if I didn't really consider the whole series. I loved Clockwork Princess a lot as well. Didn't really love Clockwork Angel. And so this one is by far my favorite in the series and really stands out for me in this series, whereas some of the other series I have, it's more like equal between all the books in the series. So I think that's kind of why I placed this on number 7. But obviously, considering I read, I don't even fucking know how many books in the past 7 years, that's obviously still pretty huge. And I still would absolutely place this whole series there, because I just think that this is one of those series that very much just works as a whole as well, and even though I might not have loved the first book as much, I just think that, it's just a good trilogy overall. I love the characters, love the romance. I mean, obviously love this world. I'm actually planning to reread this series, finally intertwined with the last couple of books in the Model Instruments. And so hopefully Clockwork Angel at least will happen in April. So I'm interested to see how I will feel about this series when I have finished that reread. But yeah, for now, the Infernal Devices and especially Clockwork Prince, this is probably the book that stands the most on its own, is my number 7. My number 6 is Ink Mistress by Audrey Colthurst. This is a book that is so beautiful by just being incredibly simplistic. It is a YA fantasy that definitely offers very unique themes, very unique world building, and I also think just in general a lot of the plot is very unique, but it doesn't have like super intense writing or like this super complicated intricate world building or this super complicated intricate plot. It is simplistic, and that is exactly what works about this book. This book just does everything so right by trying not to be more than it is. And I just think that it is one of the best cast of characters I have ever read, one of the best main characters, one of the best cinnamon rolly love interests. I think it has a beautiful romance. It definitely had some absolutely beautiful quotes in it. This book does not get the love that it deserves, and this is a book that I would truly call underrated and just underhyped, underread. Not enough people have even read this book. It's not just that I don't think people give it the love that it deserves, but it's also just that there's not enough people who even know about this book and who have even read this book. And I just really, really want more people to pick this one up. It is just beautiful by just not doing a lot. And I love that, especially, with YA so often relying on so many tropes. This book doesn't need that, and it's beautiful. My number 5, no surprise to anybody who knows me and just saw that the Infernal Devices made it onto my list, is City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. Definitely representative of the whole Model Instruments. Definitely the Model Instruments is one of my favorite series of all time. I was thinking, do I put City of Glass or City of Heavenly Fire on here? And especially because I have it's been a while now, but rather recently reread City of Glass, whereas I have not gotten to this one in my Shadowhunter reread yet. It was kind of like, which book do I choose? Do I love this more than I love City of Glass? I don't know. But I just think that this is the book that means the most to me, just with where the characters are and how this whole storyline is ending, and even knowing where the characters are gonna go after this. I just think that this book encompasses the most of the feelings that I have about this series and about this world and about these characters. And so I decided to put this one on the list. This is definitely my favorite Shadowhunter series, and I think that it is gonna be, even with the other series that we're gonna get, we'll see. But I kind of feel like there's nothing that's ever gonna beat the Model Instruments for me. And putting this one on this list is especially meaningful because City of Bones was in my very first wrap-up that I did in April 2013. And so I'm glad that I love this series so much and I'm able to put it on here because it truly, truly feels like a throwback. My number 4 is a book that I have absolutely not talked enough about in the past year or so, but definitely did plenty in the year that it came out and in the year that it was on my top books of the year as well. But I'm very glad to give this book another shout out, and that is Ramona Blow by Julie Murphy. This is one of the books that means so much to me and that very much means a lot to me in my queer journey as well, which is funny considering that the main character in this story is actually on a completely different journey than I was at the point where I read that. But for some reason, this is the book that I needed. This is the book that made me feel so validated in all the confusing feelings that I had. And this book made me feel so many things about labels and so many things. But that's even just one of the aspects of this book. That is probably why I connected the most to this book and why I was being very, very loud about this book in the year that it came out. But then on top of that, it has amazing characters that I loved a whole lot. It has a poverty rep that I don't think we see enough in YA. And I just think that the whole atmosphere of this book was amazing. I remember reading this book and not wanting to stop ever. I remember so many of the feelings that I had. I just remember how intensely I felt about this book after every chapter and how it made me go through all of these emotions, through sadness, through happiness, through anger, through all of these things. And I just love this book a lot. I think that this is representation that we very, very much need. It is totally valid to come out as a lesbian or as gay and then realize, you're actually attracted to multiple genders. And there is not just the journey from going to being bi or pan to, being a lesbian or being homosexual. There is, the other way around, and sexuality is fluid, gender is fluid, all of these things. It's so incredibly important to have these stories out there. And I think that Ramona Blow is one of the books that excels the most at putting that story out there, especially considering that this came out in 2017, which doesn't feel that far away, but publishing was definitely different back then. And this was one of the few books published by a big publisher that tackled that topic, and it got a lot of hate for it, but I think it's a beautiful book. I'm sure that people have very, very valid criticisms about this book as a whole, but the initial hate that this book received for a synopsis that was just, shittily worded by a publisher had nothing to do with the author. I don't think that that was fair, and I think that the book still suffers from that, and I think that on the other hand means that this is not getting into the hands of people who would really, really need this. Again, it was a huge part of my personal queer journey without me even being able to relate to the actual journey that this main character is going through, but I just love this book. I love this book so much. I have so many fond feelings about this. Just looking at it makes me happy, and I just really, really wish that people would give this a chance because I think that it does so much. Now we're getting into my top 3, and my number 3 is maybe the book that I feel the most emotional about, because I think that this book has done a lot for where I am as a reader, and also has done a lot for kind of the brand that I have today. The things that people connect me with, and that is The Unbound by Victoria Schwab. Definitely representative for this whole series. I love The Archive just as much as I love The Unbound. This is the first series that I read by Victoria Schwab, and so obviously that is huge for me because Victoria Schwab is now my favorite author and has been for a couple of years. I think a lot of people connect me to Victoria Schwab. I had many videos on my channel, connected to Victoria Schwab and her books. Obviously the biggest one is my vlog where I met Victoria Schwab, which is one of my favorite days that I've ever experienced in my entire life. I will leave a link in the info card in the description down below if you have not seen that. This is just one of those books that, for me is so much more than just the reading experience of this book. It is the beginning of my love for this author, and with that, so many other things. But also, I love this story so much. I love this unique concept. I love the writing, obviously. I love the main character, and I love the development that the main character is going through. It is so interesting to me, and definitely something that I, in times of my life, very much related to. I remember once being in a really, really not good spot and rereading these books and how much comfort it brought me and how seen I felt. And I just truly, truly have a huge appreciation for these books as a whole, for this story as a whole, for these characters, but also just for what these books have done, you know, for my reading life, but for my life in general, and for how many of the happy days that this series has brought me. Then my number 2 is another one that definitely means a lot to me as well, and I'm so glad that I love the series so much too, and get to include it on this list because this is also a huge throwback, and that is Bitter Blue by Christine Cashore. Now, I will say that, you know, even though this is obviously representative for this whole series as well, I actually read Graceling and Fire before I started my channel. Bitter Blue is the book that I love the most in this series, so it does kind of seem fair to just put this one on here. But this is another one that is a throwback and that means a lot to me because my very first review that I did, and I think that was actually the second video that I uploaded, and in a lot of ways, the reason why I started this channel was my review for this series. And I think that, you know, I had definitely been thinking about I've had YouTube channels, you know, just with different kinds of things throughout the years, but I was thinking about doing like a sit down talky kind of channel for a really long time. And then when I discovered BookTube, I definitely thought that's an option. I think that would be cool. But I think what really motivated me to finally sit down and to finally start this channel is that I had this huge urge to talk about this series that I loved so very much. And I think that is what gave me the final push to start my channel. And so, you know, again, it's one of the first videos that I made. It's the very first review that I've ever made. And I think that it was a huge push. And that is just, again, the throwback aspect of this, the nostalgic, emotional aspect of this. That isn't even, you know, about just how much I love this series. I love all 3 main characters in this series. I love how these books connect with each other. This is one of my favorite world buildings. I was almost gonna say my favorite, but we're gonna get there in a minute. But it is definitely one of my favorite world buildings. It's so good, and it's another series that, especially considering when these books were written, is so not tropey. Like, considering when these books came out, it should have been full of tropes. It should have been full of problematic things, and obviously it has its issues, like, you know, I'm not gonna ignore that, but just looking back at the time, these books are maybe the books that hold up the most out of all YA fantasy that is out there. And I know that so many people have read and loved this series, but I still think that people should still give it a chance. I know it seems like you might not want to pick this up because it's been so long, but if there's any YA fantasy from a couple of years ago that I think you should pick up, I absolutely think it's this series. I love it with my entire heart. And finally, I think it's pretty obvious just from what's missing at this point. My number 1 is A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab and the whole Shades of Magic trilogy. This is truly my favorite series of all time. I love this series so much, and this series means so much to me. This series is definitely another one that also just means so much to my channel. Again, just like I said with the Unbound, just the videos that I have about this series, the videos that I have, you know, talking about the books individually, my Delilah Bard, you know, Sweeney Todd cover that I did, my A Conjuring of Light reading vlog, my cover theories video. There's just like so many videos even surrounding this book. There are just so many fond memories just looking back at, but then obviously it's also just the love that I have for this world. And this is what I kind of said, I think that this is probably my favorite world building of all time. There's obviously the love that I have for these characters that is huge. All these characters have a pretty big place in my heart. I love the relationships between all of these characters so much. I love the plot. I love everything. And I am just forever so grateful for these books just existing, for the comfort that reading these has brought me and will bring me again and again and again throughout all of my life. And I don't know if there's ever gonna be a series that will mean as much to me as these books did. And maybe that's just the nature of life and, you know, that maybe these books came out and I read these books in the time when I really, really needed them, and just like maybe in a time when I wasn't aware of how much I needed them, but how they just happened at exactly the right time. And maybe I will just never have that again, but that's cool. That's fine by me. I will always know I can pick up these books and they will give me that exact same feeling. And reading a Victoria Schwab book to me is like watching a movie. It's like, no, it's not even like that. Reading a Victoria Schwab book to me is like experiencing real life. When I read a Victoria Schwab book, I can smell everything, I can feel everything, I can hear everything. It is the most I ever experienced while reading. And this series, with all its amazing world building, just drives that home more than any of her other books for me. I am really, truly and utterly in love with this series, and I think that most people, even those who haven't been on this channel for too long, are very aware of that. I think this is one of those series that I will never shut up about. It truly just means so much to me, and I just love it, and I love the characters, and I just love everything about this series, and I will forever love everything about this series. So yeah, these were my top 7 books, or rather series, of the past 7 years. Again, I think that, you know, the list was definitely, for a lot of it, kind of obvious or easy to guess if you've been here for a little while. I just really, truly love these books so very much, and I'm so thankful because a lot of these I would not have read without BookTube. But I have done all this happiness at the beginning of this video, so I will not go into that again. But yeah, I definitely want to hear from you in the comments. Like, let me know if, you know, you've read any of these books because of me, because that means the entire world to me. I cannot explain to you how much that means to me. Just have a chat with me in the comments today. I'm ready to read the longest paragraphs about whatever you want to talk about. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching for all these years, or these months, or these weeks, or days, or however long you've been here. It truly means so much to me. And just thank you for being with me on this journey. And yeah, I hope you're all still safe and healthy, and all your loved ones are as well. I'm definitely sending you so much love and so much light, just as the sun is currently shining down on my face. That's a sign. And yeah, I make new videos, hopefully at least once a week, so click subscribe to never miss anything, and hit the little bell so you get notified as well. And thank you so much for watching. I'll guess I'll see you soon. Bye!